Mother, along with our housekeeper Aunt Wong, gave birth, and a flurry of comments drifted before my eyes. Here it comes, the housekeeper is about to switch the two children. Though the girl is the housekeeper's daughter, she is both beautiful and kind, deserving of the very best. The female antagonist is born of wickedness, having skipped school to associate with delinquents. Unable to even qualify for vocational school, not only did she cause her own sister's demise, but she also set fire to the home of the girl's adoptive parents. I longed to reach in and strangle her now. As I gazed at the comments that floated by, I remained unfazed and quietly switched the two children back. For I had been reborn. She has given birth, congratulations, it's a girl. A voice broke through my consciousness, and I jolted awake, trembling at the sight of white. "Anan, come quickly. This is your sister," my father said, presenting a small infant before me. I felt a sense of disorientation. Had I not died, I had suffered a lonely death in the hospital, tormented by illness. The patient in bed 9 is in critical condition. Where is the family? A nurse called out loudly. My father hurriedly handed the infant to the nurse and rushed over. In that moment, clarity struck me. I had been reborn. In my previous life, the housekeeper's daughter appeared gentle and kind, yet she was insidiously cruel. She concealed my early gastric cancer diagnosis, allowing it to progress to an advanced stage. After my death, it was my biological sister who avenged me. Now, given this second chance, I would protect my sister. While my father attended to my mother, a nurse bribed by the housekeeper switched the two children. Seizing the opportunity when no one was watching, I swapped the children back. Oh no, the female antagonist has discovered it. Alas, the female antagonist is about to lose a sweet, soft sister and gain a naturally malevolent one. My dear sister will also lose her status as a precious daughter. The comments echoed with despair, yet I felt no anger. Perhaps these remarks would provide me with critical information. Due to severe hemorrhaging, my mother, after being saved, would no longer be able to bear children. When my father named my sister Nua, it was a name that rightfully belonged to her. In the days that followed, I feared the housekeeper might notice the children's differences and resort to foul play, so I stayed close to my sister at all times. To this, my mother expressed her delight, saying I had become more understanding. I offered no response. Fortunately, the housekeeper Aunt Chin did not detect anything amiss. Observing my affection for my sister, she smiled and said to my mother, "The eldest young lady and the second young lady truly are sisters. Their bond is remarkable." She emphasized the word sisters, a hint of pride gleaming in her eyes. The housekeeper still believes the switch was successful. The target of her cruelty wouldn't be my dear sister, would it? Oh dear, I had almost forgotten about this predicament. It's over. My dear sister is going to suffer. Someone remind the housekeeper, please. Amidst the wailing of the comments, I curved my lips into a smile, agreeing with Aunt Chin. Indeed, we are sisters. The comments in the bullet screen resonate well. Aunt Chin was far from kind to Shernua in her previous life, bordering on abuse. Fearing that we might uncover her transgressions regarding the child swap, she resigned immediately after her confinement and returned to the countryside with my sister. She neglected to nurse my sister, opting instead to feed her a meager rice porridge to raise her. By the age of 4 or 5, my sister was already tasked with washing dishes, and as she grew older, she was made to do the family laundry. Moreover, she had to endure Aunt Chen's constant beatings, scoldings, and humiliations. Once my sister completed her 9 years of compulsory education, Aunt Chen forbade her from pursuing further studies, intending to sell her to an old bachelor for a dowry of 100,000 yuan. These revelations came to light after my sister and I reunited in the previous life. There was little need for extensive investigation. The people from Aunt Chen's hometown would shake their heads in disapproval, condemning her unworthiness as a human being. Thinking of these injustices fills me with an intense rage, causing my teeth to clench. Yet, as I caress my sister's face, my touch grows increasingly gentle. Sensing my affection, she reaches out to grasp my fingers, giggling with delight. In that fleeting moment, my heart turns to mush. Just as in the previous life, Aunt Chen resigned after her confinement, claiming she did not want her child to be deprived of paternal love and wished to return to the countryside to provide her child with a complete family experience. As my mother prepared to acquiesce, I interjected, "Mother, why not bring Uncle here to assist Aunt Chen? This way her child can grow up here as well. And my sister will have a playmate." My mother's eyes sparkled with approval, and she agreed, not allowing Aunt Chen any room for refusal. I couldn't help but smile. While it was indeed possible to let son Ernie return home to suffer under Aunt Chen's tyranny, I did not wish to miss a single opportunity to witness her pain. By the way, the false daughter in this life is named Sun Erniu. Moreover, in the previous life, my mother scarcely paid attention to the false daughter. After her confinement, she handed the false daughter over to a maternity nurse and showed no further concern, while my father, citing work commitments, would only glance at the false daughter in the evenings. It was I who took on the caregiving role. On one occasion, when the false daughter fell ill with a fever, my mother was busy with beauty treatments and my father was at work, leaving me, a mere 10-year-old child, to take her to the hospital alongside the nanny. Little did I anticipate that my care would result in such ingratitude. This time, my biological sister stood before me, and Aunt Chin would undoubtedly be more attentive. As I had predicted, Aunt Chin regarded my sister as her most precious treasure, hardly requiring the assistance of a maternity nurse. When my sister cried, Aunt Chin was the first to rush to her side. Upon noticing a small rash on my sister's skin, Aunt Chin frantically took her to the hospital, even returning without asking my mother for medical expenses. Conversely, son Erneu, despite her heart-wrenching cries in her room, went entirely unnoticed. Strangely, I never heard son Erneu weep at night. Even when our parents were home during the day, her cries were infrequent. Until one fateful day, I caught Aunt Chin adding powdered medicine to son Erneu's formula. Upon seeing me, she hurriedly explained, "Young miss, this is Erneu's milk. She's been feeling a bit under the weather, so I gave her some cold medicine." "What cold medicine? This is clearly a sedative." My heavens! Will giving a sedative to such a small child pose a problem?
Certainly.
It could impede her development and cause organ damage, my poor protagonist. I gradually lifted the corners of my lips. I find great satisfaction in this outcome. Just be careful not to let Xiao Nua know. I gently reminded myself to return to my room to play with my younger sister. Perhaps the excessive consumption of sleeping pills had indeed taken a toll on my body. For when my sister finally began to speak, son Erneu could only manage incoherent babbling. The first word she uttered was sister, which filled me with such joy that I nearly shed tears. My mother, however, appeared somewhat displeased. Other children typically called for their parents first. So why did Xiao Nua call for her sister? My father dismissed the concern, stating that and spent more time caring for her than I did. It was only natural for Xiao Nua to call me first. He encouraged me to spend more time with her, assuring me that she would grow fond of me. It was no surprise that my father defended me. That year, thanks to my reminders, he secured a significant project. And he had a certain superstition that regarded me as the family's lucky star, a notion I found quite satisfactory.
Son Erneu,
whether due to the overconsumption of sleeping pills or some other reason, did not begin to speak until she was nearly 2 years old. Yet, aside from the onlookers, no one seemed to mind. Time passed swiftly, and after 7 or 8 years, my intentional nurturing had fostered a close bond with Xiao Nua, who had nearly become my shadow. Living under the same roof, Xiao Nua was spoiled like a little princess, while son Erneu had to toil endlessly alongside Aunt Chin. To my surprise, in such an environment, son Erneu managed to behave quite obediently. Compared to son Erneu's compliance, Xiao Nua was never the delicate little girl. She had no affection for princess dresses or Barbie dolls, but rather adored various toy cars and preferred a more pragmatic style of dressing. One day, upon returning home from school, I overheard my mother's angry voice emanating from Xiao Nua's room. "There are plenty of people who want what you don't want. I will no longer buy you anything." Xiao Nua's voice trembled as she replied, "Mother, it is not that I don't want what you buy. It is simply that I do not like these things." Instantly, I dropped my backpack and rushed into the room, enveloping Xiao Nua in my embrace. Her eyes glistened with tears, yet she stubbornly refrained from letting them fall. Son Erneu stood beside our mother, already adept at stoking the flames of conflict at such a tender age. "Auntie, please do not be angry with Xiao Nua. She is unlike me. If I had a mother like you, I would cherish her dearly." I felt a wave of sorrow wash over me, accompanied by the pangs of empathy from the comments flashing before my eyes. "Oh, how pitiful the protagonist is. These should all belong to her. How rare it is for someone who endured such maternal cruelty to remain so kind." Why do I sense a hint of envy in the protagonist? It is not envy. The supporting character would not appreciate what she has received. She does not deserve it. My mother then coldly declared, "If that is the case, then all these things shall be given to you." She continued to glare at Xiao Nua, adopting a condescending tone. "I will not buy you anything again. Kindness is wasted on the ungrateful." Xiao Nua clung tightly to my leg, her small frame trembling. I held her close, responding icily. "Whether your intentions are kind or merely an attempt to control Xiao Nua according to your whims, you know the truth." "Sure, and what is this attitude?" I am your mother." My mother, filled with anger and humiliation, had yet to recover from her recent injection, her face resembling a steamed bun. Unable to express much emotion, even in her fury. In my previous life, it was due to my reluctance to comply with her wishes that Sun Nyo, ever adept at charming her, became her favored one. Such is human nature, and I can accept it. However, she should not have colluded with Sun Nyo to conceal my gastric cancer from me. She claims to be my mother. But do her actions resemble those of a true maternal figure? I wished to avoid confrontation, so I departed with Xiao Nua back to my room. Upon entering, Xiao Nua clung to my neck, her voice a tender wail as she lamented, "Sister, Mama says that all girls love Barbie dolls, and if you don't, you're not a good child." Xiao Nua yearns not to be a bad child, yet she harbors no fondness for Barbie dolls. I gently wiped her tears and inquired, "Xiao Nua, do you believe what your sister tells you?" With her own sleeve, she dabbed away her tears and nodded emphatically. Looking deeply into her eyes, I earnestly conveyed, "Girls can adore model cars and boys can enjoy Barbie dolls. A child's worth is not determined by their preferences. As long as you do not steal or harm, you are free to love anything." Her eyes sparkled with understanding, and she embraced me, exclaiming, "Sister, you are the best. I love you the most." Such is the innocence of childhood, where emotions come swiftly and depart just as quickly. I gently patted her back, but in a place unseen by her, my countenance darkened. Whether in this life or the last, before Xiao Nua's arrival, my mother treated me similarly. She was neglectful of my care, yet in trivial matters, I was compelled to adhere to her whims. I was obliged to wear the clothes she purchased, and while she would buy me toys, they were always those she favored, leaving me no room for dissent. A slight decline in my academic performance would provoke her ire, resulting in harsh reprimands. Whenever I encountered conflict with others, she disregarded the truth, solely perceiving me as a source of inconvenience. In this life, however, my father regards me as a fortunate star and does not allow her to have her way. She cannot exert control over me, and thus she unleashes her frustrations upon Xiao Nua. Yet, I shall not permit her to succeed. After soothing Xiao Nua, I stepped out of the room and beheld Sun Nyo transporting the princess dress and Barbie dolls, purchased by my mother, from my sister's room. She spotted me, her 5-year-old demeanor unable to mask her emotions, her eyes brimming with triumph. I regarded her with disdain, not intending to acknowledge her. Yet she seemed intent on provoking me, feigning a clumsiness that sent the model car tumbling from the table to the floor. The carpet cushioned the fall, sparing the model from damage. Yet Sun Nyo deliberately stepped on it. The model cracked audibly, and with a faux innocent look, she exclaimed, "Sister, it was an accident. I can compensate for it." Her pitiful gaze met mine, though the corners of her mouth betrayed a slight smirk. In my mind, a flurry of comments flashed by. No way. How could the protagonist act like this? Isn't she supposed to be pure and gentle? Her upbringing is different. A shift in behavior is quite normal, besides. She is just a child. Precisely, it's merely a model. She has offered to compensate. What do you expect from a little girl? I approached, picked up the model from the ground, a malicious smile curling at the corners of my lips as I remarked, "One must compensate for the damage inflicted upon another's belongings. I shall deduct it from your mother's wages. Furthermore, should I hear you call me sister again, I will likewise reduce her pay." At my words, the smugness on Sun Nyo's face vanished entirely. I laughed, satisfied, and turned to leave. Sun Nyo feared Aunt Chen, and rightly so. That evening, muffled sounds of distress and suppressed sobs emanated from Aunt Chen's room. The following morning, during breakfast, Sun Nyo rushed out, kneeling before her mother, revealing her bruises, and pleaded, "Madam, please save me. Those princess dresses and dolls were given to me by you. But the young lady said she would deduct from my mother's wages if she found out. I no longer want those things. I beg you, do not take my mother's wages, or she will surely beat me." With a crash, her mother dropped her chopsticks, her eyes coldly fixed on me. "Sharon, you think you've grown wings and no longer regard me as your mother?" I set down my chopsticks, leisurely wiped my mouth with a napkin, and replied coolly, "I am full. Mother, please take your time." Behind me, I heard the sound of another bowl shattering. It seemed I was still too kind. Later that night, I entered my father's study. "Is there something on your mind?" Father looked up at me with a smile. I returned his smile. This was my father. Once dependent on my grandfather's assistance, he had been entirely reliant on my mother, even willing to sacrifice his own children. 3 years ago, upon my grandfather's passing, And with my guidance, the Sure family's strength had far surpassed that of the Gu family, prompting my father to treat me with newfound warmth. I have learned the base price of a northern city land from Qin Mu, I informed him. In my previous life, the Qin family had secured the development rights to that land, allowing them to leave the Sure family far behind. It was with Qin Mu's support that son Ernyo was able to persuade my parents to abandon me without hesitation. This time, it would not be the same. For a brief moment, my father appeared stunned, but then he was overtaken by joy, rising to approach me. "Anan, you truly are my daughter." I curved my lips in a smile. He did not even question whether the Qin family would divulge such crucial information to the 18-year-old Qin Mu. I would not remind him, adding, "I am about to take my college entrance exams. The disturbances between Aunt Chen and son Ernyo at home will affect my focus." Father understood my implication. "Tomorrow, I will have them leave. And mother, while you toil outside to earn a living, she squanders extravagantly, buying 3,000 yuan dolls for Aunt Chen's daughter." I continued. To my father, who could easily spend hundreds of thousands on a single bottle of wine during banquets, a 3,000 yuan doll was akin to a mere hair lost from a cat. He would hardly notice the absence of that sum from his account. Nevertheless, he acquiesced, saying, "I will freeze her supplementary card. You are preparing for your exams, and she should care for you properly." Having achieved my objective, I provided my father with the base price for the northern city land. I am uncertain how he communicated with my mother, but the following day, she regarded me with a gaze that could devour, yet refrained from chastising me. I merely desired peace and quiet. Her attitude held no significance for me. I had anticipated a lengthy separation from son Ernyo, yet unexpectedly, after the college entrance examination, I received an invitation from Qin Mu to visit the Qin family. In my quest to garner more favor for my father, I did not shy away from engaging with Qin Mu. I was acutely aware that my father harbored traditional views, believing that daughters are unreliable and that even a son-in-law is more dependable. He seemed oblivious to the fact that this son-in-law had once treated his father-in-law poorly during the Gu family's decline. Reluctant to be alone with Qin Mu, I brought along Xiao Nua to the Qin residence. Initially, the Qin family had been displeased with my father securing the land in the northern district, but given that the Sure and Qin families were now nearly equal in standing, any conflict would only harm both parties, ultimately benefiting others. Thus, the Qin family had no choice but to begrudgingly maintain their relationship with my family. To my surprise, I encountered son Ernyo at the Qin household. "Sister Shuren," she timidly called out to me. "What brings you here?" I inquired. Earlier, my mother suffered an asthma attack while we were out, and thankfully, I had her medication, which saved her. "I heard Aunt Chen previously worked for your family, so I brought her and her daughter back with me," Qin Mu explained. It appeared that Aunt Chen had decided to linger in the Qin family rather than return to the countryside, likely unable to part with Xiao Nua. "Sister Shuren, I acknowledge my past misdeeds. You may hit or scold me, but please spare my mother. If you wish to avoid me, I can leave. But I implore you to let my mother be," son Ernyo pleaded, her eyes brimming with tears. At that moment, Qin Mama's gaze shifted towards us. "What is happening?" "I can't shake the feeling that the female lead is acting strangely," one voice murmured. "She merely desires a better life. What fault lies with her? Besides, it was the supporting character who spread falsehoods before her father. The lead has not wronged her," another voice countered. Yet, it was indeed the lead who took the asthma medication from Qin Mama's bag at the mall, which is quite wrong, another added. I realized the fortuitousness of the situation. I had no intention of explaining anything to Qin Mama, so I simply smiled and said, "This is a matter for the Qin family. As long as Aunt Qin is willing to keep you, it is no concern of mine." Aunt Chen and son Ernyo remained at the Qin household. I often spotted Aunt Chen outside my family's villa, covertly watching Xiao Nua. Knowing she posed no threat to Xiao Nua, I chose to ignore her presence. Son Ernyo yearned to attend the same school as Xiao Nua, but she was merely a savior to Madame Qin, not her daughter. And Aunt Chen would not advocate on her behalf. However, compared to the sister of my past life, she was fortunate, having at least progressed to high school. My sister excelled academically, gaining admission to a prestigious university in the country, where she chose to study physics. My father's joy was palpable upon receiving the acceptance letter. He organized an extravagant thank-you banquet for her teachers. On the day of the celebration, son Ernyo accompanied Qin Mu. "Aunt Gu," she affectionately called, clinging to my mother and casting a smug, challenging glance in my direction. After several days apart, Nyo had grown even more beautiful. My mother smiled gently. presenting a gift box to Sun Ernyo. Upon opening it, she discovered a stunning ruby necklace within. Her eyes sparkled with delight as she exclaimed, "Thank you, Aunt Gu. You are the best to me. Can you help me put it on?" Mother cast a glance at my sister and me, seemingly intentional, as she adorned Sun Ernyo with the necklace. My sister and I couldn't help but roll our eyes. Over the years, my position in father's heart had become paramount. I had become the decision-maker in our household. I forbade Sun Ernyo from entering. Yet mother frequently visited the Chin family. Perhaps it was the lingering ties from a past life, but mother still harbored a fondness for Sun Ernyo. The difference this time was that her favoritism no longer harmed my sister or me. "Shao Noah, the gift Aunt Gu gave you must be even better than this necklace. You wouldn't be unhappy, would you?" Sun Ernyo remarked, deliberately caressing the necklace around her neck. Shao Noah sported a chic short haircut, having dyed it pink after the college entrance exams. For this occasion, she opted for a sharp white suit instead of a dress, exuding both coolness and confidence. Leaning her head on my shoulder, she produced a car key from her suit pocket. "This is a Maserati my sister gifted to me. Who cares about your trifles?" Sun Ernyo's smile faltered. Yet, suddenly recalling something, she cast a malicious glance at Shao Noah. "Shao Noah, as a daughter of the Shur family, how could you dress like this? One might mistake you for some street ruffian. Did I miss something in the plot? Why does the female lead seem so domineering? Indeed, a true heiress so cool, and yet she is enrolled in a top physics program. Are there really such ruffians? This plot seems to have diverged from the beginning. The genuine heiress hasn't been swapped out. So, why does the female lead speak as if it were the original narrative?" I furrowed my brow. This barrage of comments reminded me that I had altered the storyline. How could Sun Ernyo still claim my sister resembled a hoodlum? Slap. I struck her sharply. "How dare you hit me?" she exclaimed in disbelief, covering her face. I accepted the handkerchief my sister offered and wiped my hands, sneering. To call my sister a hoodlum is a light punishment. All eyes turned towards us. Sun Ernyo was seething with rage, yet dared not speak. Chinmu approached and shielded her, addressing me, "And Nyo is still young. Can't you speak to her kindly?" I raised an eyebrow. It seemed that in this lifetime, the two had indeed become entangled. "Brother Chinmu, it's my fault. I misspoke. Please don't blame Sister Anan. I can apologize to her." Sun Ernyo transformed into a delicate figure before Chinmu. Mother glared at me in anger. "Shurin, you're becoming increasingly overbearing. Guests are to be treated kindly. How could you strike a guest? Apologize to Nyo at once." Everyone's gaze was fixed on me, with Sun Ernyo eagerly awaiting my contrition. I scoffed dismissively. "She is not worthy." With that, I took Shao Noah and departed. The Shur family was flourishing, far ahead of the Chin family, becoming the leading force in High City's business realm. Father relied on me, and no one dared to offend me by defending Sun Ernyo at this juncture. "Sister, are you going to marry Chinmu?" Shao Noah asked, furrowing her brow as we walked through the garden. I did not conceal my thoughts and shook my head with a smile. "Not at all." Shao Noah visibly exhaled in relief. "That's good. A classmate of mine has a friend at Sun Ernyo's school who mentioned that Chinmu often picks her up. There are even reports of them kissing in the car." Despite her carefree nature, Shao Noah blushed at the mention of Sun Ernyo and Chinmu's actions. Observing her reaction, I couldn't help but chuckle, gently pinching her cheek while reassuring her, "Don't worry, I am well aware of it all. I have already stumbled once because of these two, and I shall remain vigilant." After the gathering, my father offered to exert pressure on the Chin family to ensure that Sun Ernyo would leave the city if I wished to avoid her. He spoke with a spirited confidence, revealing not a desire to defend me or Shao Noah, but rather to showcase his own power. However, to my surprise, the following day, my father brought Sun Ernyo home, declaring his intention to adopt her as his goddaughter. "And then, from now on, Nyo will be a member of our family. You two must get along well, and let the past be bygone. You have always been the magnanimous one," he said. A sense of unease gripped my heart. The implication of his words was clear. There would be no room for negotiation. The female lead truly lives up to her title, even amidst chaos. She can strike back fiercely. What a laugh. Discussing legal matters in a novel, winning is all that matters, regardless of the law. Sell commercial secrets? I felt a slight relief and replied nonchalantly, "Yes, father." Sun Ernyo, upon my father's departure, revealed her true colors to me. I smiled slightly. "Indeed, you did not expect this, but I can send you away once, and I can do so again." Sun Ernio chuckled. Let us wait and see. But I wonder if you have enough time, sister. I initially planned to send Xiao Nu away temporarily, but she thumped her chest, declaring, how could I possibly leave now? I must protect my sister. I laughed and did not insist further. I inquired with my father's secretary and driver, learning from the latter that Sun Ernio had intercepted my father's car and had a lengthy conversation with him inside. The driver provided me with a recording from within the vehicle. Over the years, I had infiltrated 80% of my father's inner circle, making it easy for me to discern his words and actions. My sister and I listened to the recording together. Sun Ernio said, the Qin Group is developing autonomous driving technology and has made significant progress. If Uncle Sure allows me to be your daughter, I can find a way to provide him with the core data. My father replied, it's a deal. Oh, dear. Someone should inform the female lead that the antagonist is already aware of these matters. I feel like the antagonist and sister have a bit of a bond. Focusing on everything will only lead to your downfall. My sister and I exchanged glances, already formulating a plan. The timeline shifted to the day I was to collect my medical report. The hospital proactively called, informing me that my results were all favorable and that the report had been mailed to me. A smile crept onto my lips. The bait had indeed taken. The comments began to flood in once more. I cannot shake the feeling that the female protagonist deliberately wishes harm upon her rival by concealing vital information from her. After all, there is hope for recovery in the early stages of cancer. Indeed, I sense an underlying malice in her actions, as she undoubtedly harbors resentment towards me. Yet, what of it? The rival has always treated me with disdain. A chill envelopes my heart. In this life, I have indeed mistreated Sun Ernia. But what of the previous one? I had cherished her as a beloved sister, yet she still sought my demise. Half a month later, the technology company I founded achieved groundbreaking advancements in the research of new energy vehicles, garnering substantial support from the government. My father proposed a plan for the group to acquire the tech company, to which I did not object. Albeit with conditions, I demanded 10% equity in the group and a position within it. My father regarded me with a knowing gaze, ultimately acquiescing. Upon learning of my entry into the group and my significant role, the Qin family's parents began to subtly pressure me to marry Qin Mu, who, however, declined. With a gentle demeanor, he said to me, Anan, I have been quite busy with work lately and cannot find the time to marry. I wish to personally arrange our wedding venue to ensure you have a truly unique celebration. Please wait for me a little longer. I offered a faint smile, neither affirming nor denying his request. He took my silence as consent. A year later, I fainted in the office and was subsequently taken to the hospital. Predictably, once news of my hospitalization spread, the first to visit me was Sun Ernia. She did not disguise her hostility, declaring, Shuren, you finally received your comeuppance. Lying on the hospital bed, I furrowed my brow at her. Sun Ernia, do we harbor such deep-seated animosity? Were it not for her, I would have been the second young lady of the Sure family, cherished and nurtured by my parents, and I would not bear the unpleasant name of Sun Ernia. I should have been Sure Noah. Her eyes glinted with malice, as if she longed to end my life. At that moment, a flurry of comments flashed before me. What on earth is happening? Is the female protagonist reborn? How can she so brazenly occupy another's place? The mystery is solved. The protagonist maliciously concealed the rival's medical report. Poor rival. I feigned confusion. I do not comprehend your words. Sun Ernia scoffed. Whether you understand is of no consequence. What is rightfully mine, I shall reclaim, and you shall not live long. I smirked. You are merely the daughter of a maid. What is it that belongs to you? A shadow crossed her eyes, for she detested any mention of her lineage. Yet, even as a maid's daughter, striving through one's own efforts is nothing to be ashamed of. It is not my prejudice, but her inability to adjust her mindset that is the true issue. Moments later, she laughed. Indeed, I am the daughter of a maid. But soon, you will find yourself even beneath me. As she predicted, during my hospitalization, my father, citing my inability to fulfill my duties due to my condition, suspended my position. The Qin family first expressed their sorrow over my young age and cancer diagnosis, promising to enlist the world's foremost specialists for my treatment. They then remarked that Qin Mu had grown up alongside me, akin to a brother, and assured me that he would accompany me through the treatment process. Ultimately, they announced the engagement between Qin Mu and Sun Ernia. With this series of maneuvers, it appeared that the Qin family owed me nothing. Following the engagement, the Qin and Sure families began a close collaboration, sharing the Qin family's autonomous driving technology with the Sure family. while the Sure family reciprocated with their advancements in new energy technology, marking a formidable alliance. It became evident that Sun Ernia had indeed succeeded in her aim of acquiring the Qin family's autonomous driving data, positioning herself as a bridge between the two families, achieving her desires within legal bounds. I realized my previous loss was not entirely in vain. Regardless of her methods, obtaining the Qin family's research materials on autonomous driving was my objective, and I had not only secured the data but an entire research team as well. I was thoroughly satisfied. It was time to consolidate my gains. At the engagement banquet for Qin Mu and Sun Ernia, I made my entrance at the hotel. It was clear that both the Qin and Sure families regarded this engagement with utmost seriousness, as nearly every notable figure in Haiqing was present. At the entrance of the banquet hall, the engagement photos displayed Sun Ernia's name transformed into Sun Nua, indicating her keen concern for her identity. As I stepped into the banquet hall, the gazes of nearly all attendees turned towards me. Dressed in a flowing red gown, my figure was well-proportioned, and my complexion radiated a healthy glow, betraying no hint of my illness. The expressions of those from the Sure and Qin families shifted dramatically. Qin Mu was the first to approach, his eyes betraying a mix of confusion and displeasure as he inquired, "Anan, what brings you here?" I smiled warmly. "We grew up together, as if siblings. How could I not attend my brother's wedding?" Sun Ernia also approached, her eyes gleaming with pride, though her voice was soft. "It's wonderful that you could come to bless us, sister. I thought you might resent me." She continued, "Sister, you don't mind that I am with brother Qin Mu, do you?" "I have no objections. The trash I do not desire is yours to claim," I replied sincerely. The color drained from both Qin Mu and Sun Ernia's faces at my words. "Anan, you are unwell. You should return to the hospital. We appreciate your sentiments." My father interjected, frowning and signaling for security to escort me out. I turned to him, asking, "Father, am I truly so expendable that you would prefer the daughter of a maid over your own flesh and blood?" His expression remained impassive as he replied, "Anan, it's not that your father does not want you, it's merely that your health requires proper attention." At his words, my heart grew cold. Since my hospitalization, he had not visited me even once. Thus, I felt no compulsion to extend him any semblance of mercy. Just as security was about to remove me, police officers entered and approached my father and Mr. Qin directly. "Mr. Sure, Mr. Qin, you are under suspicion of money laundering and embezzlement. Please accompany us." The officers placed silver bracelets on my father's wrists. The sudden turn of events rendered the engagement banquet untenable. Amidst the chaos of war, Sun Erniu confronted me, her eyes blazing with accusation. "It's you. You did all of this." I curved my lips into a smile and nodded. "Yes, it was all me." "So what?" Sun Erniu seemed to grasp something, stepping back with disbelief etched across her face. You have returned?" This conversation might require some time. So I took a seat and responded, "I arrived a tad earlier than you." Goodness, the supporting character has also been reborn. I thought it odd how the supporting character managed to switch the protagonist and her sister so effortlessly. Now it makes sense. This is a direct confrontation. It is utterly riveting. With reddened eyes, Sun Ernia laughed bitterly. "Even if you have returned, what does it matter? You would still meet your demise without me." "Is this what you mean?" I produced a piece of paper and handed it to her. It was the very health report she had concealed, declaring that I was in the late stages of stomach cancer. Her eyes widened in realization, and her voice turned shrill. "You did this on purpose." I laughed heartily, shrugging nonchalantly. "What of it? I have been reborn. Even if I were to suffer from stomach cancer, I could choose to seek treatment early. In this life, I had not contracted stomach cancer. Perhaps due to my mother's influence in my previous life, even the simple act of eating well felt like a luxury. During my childhood, she had never allowed me to eat my fill, insisting I maintain a slender figure. After my sister was born, I dedicated myself to relentless study, managing my physique with utmost rigor, assuring my mother that my presence was sufficient to allow my sister to grow up carefree. Little did I realize how ungrateful my sister would turn out to be in my past life. In this current existence, I enjoyed a bountiful life, maintained regular health checkups, and was in excellent health, free from cancer. The health report Sun Erniu had hidden was, in fact, a forgery I had commissioned, all to lower my father's defenses, secure my shares, and gain entry into the corporation. To him, I was on the brink of death. No matter how much I acquired, I would inevitably return it to him. It was evident that some onlookers had begun to perceive my scheme. This means the supporting character had previously forged the health report. deliberately leading the protagonist to believe she truly had cancer, thereby making everyone lower their guard. The supporting character is remarkably clever. A single health report has ensnared everyone. Now that both heads of the Chin and Sher families are imprisoned, one wonders what the supporting character's next move will be. This situation might actually benefit the protagonist. With the male lead's father incarcerated, he could seize power in the Chin family, elevating the protagonist from the position of the CEO's wife to that of the chairman's wife. Sun Erniu also recognized this, lifting her chin as she declared, "I have not lost either. Chin Mu is still well. Ultimately, you will be our defeated foe." I smiled coldly within, finding her utterly foolish. Having meticulously orchestrated my plans to this point, how could I possibly allow Chin Mu to seize power so effortlessly? In my possession lies 10% of the shares bestowed upon me by my father, while my sister's 10% has been entrusted to me. My mother originally held 5%, but due to the pressure I exerted upon her, my father took control of her finances whenever he needed my assistance. Seizing the opportunity, I discreetly instructed my uncle to acquire the 5% of shares held by my mother. Coupled with the 3% of scattered shares I have purchased, I now command a total of 28% of the shares. With this stake, I possess sufficient authority to govern the conglomerate. However, my father's 15% remains a formidable threat. Should he choose to bestow his shares upon another, my troubles would only multiply. For the time being, I do not wield absolute control over the group. I am merely stabilizing the situation. The evidence against Chin's father and my own is overwhelmingly substantial, and the prosecutor's office has approved their arrest, awaiting trial. A month later, I visited my father in detention. "It is you. All of this is your doing." Upon seeing me, he became exceedingly agitated, his eyes reddening as he attempted to rush towards me. Yet, his lawyer promptly intervened, stating, "Chairman, resorting to violence in a detention center will only extend your sentence." This single remark effectively restrained him. I could discern his struggle to suppress his fury, the words escaping his lips with difficulty. "Why have you done this? Have I not treated you well?" I responded with a mocking smile. "Father, I am merely applying the lessons I learned from you. You taught me that for the sake of profit, one may resort to any means necessary, even against family." His lips quivered, leaving him speechless. It was evident that he was acutely aware of his own misdeeds. He understood how my mother had treated me, yet because it did not threaten his interests, he remained indifferent. He even contemplated exploiting the rift between my mother and me, using her punishment as a means to curry favor with me. Upon learning of my stomach cancer, his thoughts revolved around how to utilize my condition rather than how to provide me with treatment. Ultimately, it was I who outmaneuvered him. "Father, I have been exceedingly lenient with you. You seek my demise, while I have merely facilitated a change in your retirement arrangements," I declared. His face flushed with anger. "You ungrateful daughter, you will be struck down by divine retribution." I laughed aloud, for it indicated his desperation, clinging to the hope of something fictitious. Whether I would face divine punishment was beside the point. I was here for my father. I gestured for the lawyer to present the prepared video for my father's viewing. The footage depicted news regarding the Chin family. Following Chin's father's arrest, the Chin Corporation descended into chaos. Chin Mu proved utterly incapable of restoring order and was promptly ousted from the conglomerate. The current leadership of the Chin Corporation now rests with a former director, not a member of the Chin family. This director, in a bid to prevent Chin's father from being released, disclosed numerous past transgressions committed by him. However, having served as chairman for so many years, Chin's father was essentially intertwined with the Chin Corporation, leading to an increase in his charges while simultaneously subjecting the corporation to investigation, effectively injuring himself as much as his adversaries. Undoubtedly, my hand was at play in all of this. After the video concluded, I allowed my father a moment to digest the information before I spoke. "Father, I can assure you that this matter will cease, provided I am able to suppress the others in the organization." He comprehended my implication and recognized that he had no alternative. In an instant, his posture slumped, as if he had aged a decade. "Bring it forth," he said. The lawyer then presented the share transfer agreement. The female antagonist exuded an air of confidence, having successfully acquired shares from her negligent father. To be frank, given her level of intelligence, what could the protagonist possibly use to contend with her? Furthermore, both the male lead and the female lead had been expelled from the Grand Villa. Upon my release from the detention center, I gazed up at the sky and took a deep breath. It seemed that my era had only just begun. Once I seized power, I immediately acquired the autonomous driving research team from the Chin Group. One day, As I was leaving work and heading to the underground parking lot, Chinmu appeared before me. Upon seeing me, he suddenly knelt down, his eyes reddened, and implored, and then I was wrong. It was my parents who forced me into an engagement with Sun Nyo. The only person I love is you. I should have been braver back then. It would have spared us both from this pain. Please forgive me, Anan. Do not trust him. He abandoned you when he learned you had stomach cancer. A voice echoed in my mind. Moreover, he was already holding hands and kissing the underage female lead while engaged to the antagonist. Now that the female lead was afflicted with stomach cancer, he had once again cast her aside. What a scoundrel. Sun Nyo has stomach cancer? I raised an eyebrow. I never loved you. I am fully aware of your sordid entanglements with Sun Nyo. Do not seek me out again. I refuse to waste my time with you. His complexion drained of color as he leapt up, grasping my arm desperately, exclaiming, No, I refuse to believe it. You love me. Seeing him in such a frenzied state, I realized that reasoning with him was futile. Just then, the security personnel arrived to restrain him, and I drove away without a second thought. I instructed my team to investigate Sun Nyo's whereabouts and learned that Aunt Chin had taken her back to the countryside. On a weekend, I decided to visit the rural area. Upon arriving at the doorstep, I could hear Sun Nyo's voice raised in anger from within. No money, no money. All you ever say is no money. If you hadn't squandered it all on Shernua, how could you be so destitute that you can't even afford my medical bills? Aunt Chin retorted, and after all these years with Chinmu, what have you gained? I felt quite pleased. Over the years, Aunt Chin had indeed spent the majority of her funds on her daughter. From the moment Aunt Chin ceased to provide for her daughter, I understood that she realized Sun Nyo was not her child. But by then, it was already too late. Lost in thought, Aunt Chin emerged and, upon seeing me, rushed over to kneel before me, pleading, Miss, please return the money you spent on the second miss. Nyo cannot go without treatment. Hearing the commotion, Sun Nyo stumbled out. Her condition was far worse than in my previous life. She was emaciated, her complexion a sickly yellow, and she appeared so gaunt that her eyes seemed as if they might pop from their sockets. She rushed before me like a tempest, her voice sharp and accusatory. Shuren, you wretched creature, how dare you show your face here? You know full well that Shernua is not my mother's daughter. Yet you allowed her to squander so much of my mother's money. Return it to me. I observed her disarray with a sense of amusement, and after a moment, a satisfied smile crept onto my lips. I came here precisely for this. Upon hearing my words, a glimmer of hope flickered in Sun Nyo's eyes. I made a phone call, and shortly thereafter, a truck arrived. Workers unloaded its contents: clothing, toys, accessories, books, stationery, all brand new. My secretary handed Aunt Chin a ledger. These were all the items Aunt Chin had purchased for Xiao Nua over the years, meticulously recorded. Some food items could not be preserved, but I had noted those as well. Although Xiao Nua had not consumed them, I could still convert them into cash for you, a total of 21,054 yuan. Rounded off, I shall provide you with 21,050 yuan. With that, I handed the money to Aunt Chin. Spending 20,000 for the sake of entertainment was worth it. Sun Nyo's eyes bulged with rage. Shuren, you're deceiving me. I retorted. Such harsh words. Your insatiable greed is your own doing. I gazed at the ruby bracelet on my wrist, grinning. This bracelet is incredibly expensive, worth 500,000. With that, Sun Nyo spat blood and collapsed, pointing at me in fury. Shuren, may you suffer a terrible fate. I scoffed, casting one last glance before departing. Shortly after my exit, it was said that Sun Nyo met her demise, her eyes left unclosed, muttering about rebirth. I smirked. Even if she truly were to be reborn, I held no fear. If such a person were granted a second chance, it would indeed be a sign of heaven's blindness. Aunt Chin, having divorced her husband to remain in the city and care for her sister, was now alone, her daughter long deceased, facing a bleak and forsaken old age. As for my mother, I had sent her to a nursing home, where strict regulations governed her diet, all for her own good, to ensure her health and longevity. Sister, I've secured my postgraduate recommendation. Tonight, I shall treat you to a grand feast to celebrate. I received a call from my younger sister, her voice vibrant and alive. All right, I replied with a smile. Outside, the sun blazed fiercely against the clear blue sky. In my world, I am the protagonist. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this tale, please subscribe and like to support. Until we meet again in another story.